Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Daniel woke up that Tuesday with the same feeling he'd been carrying for weeks. Something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. At 38, working as a systems analyst for a tech company in Portland, Oregon, he'd always prided himself on his analytical mind, the ability to spot patterns where others just saw noise. That skill made him great at his job, debugging complex code and uncovering flaws in entire systems. But for the first time, he wished he was wrong about what he was seeing. Amanda was 36 and worked as a freelance graphic designer, running her business out of a makeshift studio at home. They'd been married 12 years, had 2 kids, Sophie, 9, and Lucas, 6, and lived in a comfortable house just outside Portland. Their routine was predictable. Daniel left early for the office, Amanda worked from home, and at night they ate dinner as a family, talking about their days and making plans for the weekend. But things started to change, so slowly, he barely noticed at first. It began with her words. Amanda, who'd called him love since their college days, started saying honey instead. At first, Daniel thought it was nothing. But the frequency grew, and the tone changed. Honey, can you grab milk at the store? Honey, I've got a meeting. Good night, honey. Never love anymore. Never that warmth. Daniel started noticing other things. Amanda began dressing up more carefully, even on days she was just working from home. More makeup, hair styled with care, clothes she'd only worn for special occasions before. She bought new lingerie, expensive pieces Daniel had never seen on her. Her phone, which used to be left lying around the house, was now always in her hand, screen face down. When it rang, she'd snatch it up quickly, step away to answer, whispering low, sometimes locking herself in the bathroom. The physical intimacy between them vanished. Sex became rare, then non-existent. Amanda always had an excuse: headache, tiredness, her period that seemed to last forever. Goodnight kisses turned mechanical, quick pecks on the lips, no warmth. Daniel tried talking to her, asked if everything was okay. She always smiled, forced and tight, everything's fine, honey. Just work stress. It was Thursday morning when suspicion turned into painful certainty. Amanda left early for a supposed client meeting and left her phone charging on the kitchen counter. Daniel had never been the type to snoop through his wife's phone. Trust had always been the foundation of their relationship. But as he made coffee, the phone buzzed. A notification popped up: Jake, see you at 3 at the usual place. Can't wait. Daniel's stomach dropped. Jake? What Jake? What usual place? He picked up the phone, heart pounding, and did something he never imagined he'd do: he unlocked it. He knew the password, Sophie's birthday, something she'd given him years ago for emergencies, but he'd never used it out of principle. Now, with that message burning in his mind, principles didn't matter anymore. The main messaging app was clean, conversations deleted. But there was a second, more discreet app. There it all was. Months of messages with Jake. Romantic, explicit, full of details about past meetups. You're incredible, I can't stop thinking about you. That afternoon at the hotel was perfect. Daniel felt sick. He scrolled through photos Amanda had sent, intimate shots, and messages where she complained about their marriage, calling him boring. Daniel dropped the phone like it burned. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his anger, humiliation, pain. He wasn't the kind of man who sat around while his life fell apart. He grabbed his own phone and started searching: Private Investigator, Portland, Oregon. He picked a firm with good reviews, called right away, and 30 minutes later was on a video call with an investigator named Raymond. I need concrete proof, Daniel said, voice steady. I think my wife is having an affair. I saw messages on her phone, but I need something solid. Raymond listened carefully. Understood. I'll need her full name, recent photos, her daily routine, license plate. We start today. I've got a team ready, experience with urgent cases. With the meeting scheduled for this afternoon, I can get results fast. Usually takes a few days to get clean, admissible material. The next 3 days were the longest of Daniel's life. He kept up his routine like nothing had happened, chatting casually with Amanda, who kept calling him honey with that cruel distance. He watched everything, the way she smiled at her phone, the sudden exits for meetings, the expensive perfume she wore on certain days. On the 3rd day, Daniel received a plain brown envelope at work. He locked himself in an empty conference room and opened it with shaking hands. Inside were high-res photos and a flash drive with videos, plus a detailed report. The first photos showed Amanda meeting a young man, early 30s, tall, dressed in casual business attire. They met in front of a discreet boutique hotel. The following photos were more painful, Amanda and the man walking and holding hands, his arm around her waist. Photos of them leaving hours later, clothes disheveled, hair messy. Daniel plugged the drive into his laptop. The video showed Amanda and the man in the hotel parking lot. Then he pulled her close and kissed her. Not a quick peck. A long, deep, passionate kiss. Amanda melted into his arms, her hands climbing his neck, body pressed tight. Daniel paused the video. He couldn't watch any more. Hot tears came, but he wiped them away quickly. He read the full report. The man's name was Jake Lawson, a copywriter who occasionally hired Amanda for projects. That's how they'd met, about 4 months ago. Raymond had documented at least 6 meetings at the same hotel, always during business hours. The report included timestamps, GPS data, and documentation suitable for court. Daniel put everything in his backpack. Opened his browser and searched, Divorce Lawyer Portland, Oregon. He spent the afternoon reading up on divorce laws. Oregon was a no-fault state, but the evidence could matter in custody, especially proving Amanda had prioritized her affair over family responsibilities. He scheduled an emergency consultation with a lawyer for that afternoon. The lawyer, Richard Brennan, examined the evidence with clinical precision. You've got a case that could strengthen your position on custody. Adultery doesn't affect divorce in Oregon, but it can influence perceptions of parental responsibility. If we show she prioritized secret meetings over being available for your kids' emergencies, that could work in your favor. Daniel signed the initial paperwork. I want her served within 48 hours. I'm fighting for primary custody. The kids stay with me. That night, Daniel got home before Amanda. He sent the kids to the neighbors. He set the scene carefully, turned off all the lights, left only the lamp on the table glowing. Spread the photos across the table in chronological order. Connected the laptop to the TV and paused the first video on the frame of the kiss. Then sat on the couch and waited. Amanda arrived at 7:30 p.m. Honey, I'm home. Did the kids eat? Daniel didn't answer. Amanda walked in, reached for the light switch. Nothing happened. Daniel had flipped the circuit breaker. Honey, the lights aren't. Her voice died as she saw it. The photos. The laptop. Daniel sitting there, arms crossed, face like ice. What is this? Amanda stammered. This, Daniel said, voice low but sharp, is the truth. This is who you really are. This is what you've been doing for the last 4 months while I worked to support this family. Amanda stepped forward, eyes wide. Daniel, I can explain. No. You're not going to explain anything. You're going to listen. Sit down. Amanda sat, trembling. Daniel hit play. The kiss filled the big screen. Amanda let out a sob, covering her mouth. Stop, please, stop. Daniel paused the video. It hurts to watch, doesn't it? Imagine how it hurt to find out. Imagine how it hurt realizing, honey, wasn't affection, it was distance. It was guilt. It was you building a wall between us so your affair would be easier. Daniel, I'm sorry, You're sorry? Sorry you got caught? Because I bet you didn't feel a thing while you were sleeping with Jake in that hotel. While you were using our time, our money, our life to fund your little secret. Amanda started crying. It was a mistake, it was weakness, I was confused, the marriage was. No. Don't blame the marriage. You made a choice. Not once, but dozens of times. Every message, every meeting, every lie to me and to our kids. Those were conscious choices. Daniel picked up an envelope and dropped it in her lap. That's the divorce notice. You'll be officially served in 48 hours. I've already filed. I've hired a lawyer. And I'm fighting for primary custody of Sophie and Lucas. Amanda opened the envelope, shaking. No, Daniel, please, not the kids. I can and I will. I have documented proof you put an extramarital relationship above family stability. I'm going to present everything, and let the system decide, but I'm going to fight with everything I've got. Amanda dropped to her knees, sobbing. Please, Daniel, I beg you, we can fix this, therapy, I'll end it with him, please don't do this. Daniel looked at her, the woman he'd loved for 12 years, now reduced to a pathetic stranger on the floor. You destroyed this. Not me. You. And now you'll live with what you did. But Daniel didn't stop there. In the days that followed, he sent copies of the photos and report to Amanda's parents, her sister, and a few close friends of the couple. Each email carried the same factual note, so you know the truth about the end of our marriage. He didn't send them to employers or clients, his lawyer advised against it due to potential defamation claims, but he didn't control what those who received the information chose to do with it. The bomb exploded devastatingly. Amanda's parents, conservative Catholics, were shattered and cut off contact with their daughter for weeks. Her sister, always her confidant, felt betrayed and pulled away too. Their friends split, but most sided with Daniel. The professional fallout came indirectly. One of Amanda's recurring clients, who had ties to a friend who received the information, found out. Concerned about her emotional stability and possible conflicts of interest, he cancelled the contract he'd been negotiating. Other clients, noticing Amanda was going through a messy divorce, started looking for other designers. Her freelance work dropped sharply over the coming weeks. Jake Lawson didn't escape unscathed. Daniel found out Jake was married. He reached out to Jake's wife, Heather, and shared the evidence. Heather was devastated but thanked him for the honesty. She confronted Jake and filed for divorce the next day. Heather, in her own pain, sent copies of the evidence to Jake's colleagues at the ad agency. The info reached management, who launched an internal investigation. Though there was no conclusive proof of misuse of company resources, Jake's reputation was tarnished. He resigned 3 months later, citing pursuing new opportunities. When Amanda tried reaching out to Jake for emotional support, she found he'd blocked her everywhere. Jake was trying to save his marriage and career and didn't want any connection to the scandal. Amanda was completely alone. The divorce dragged on for months. Mediations, preliminary hearings, psychological evaluations. Daniel presented all the evidence, the pattern of lies, the use of joint funds for the affair, the prioritization of meetings over parenting duties. Amanda's lawyer argued it was an isolated mistake and that she was a devoted mother, but the evidence was too hard to dismiss. After 6 months, the judge issued his ruling. Daniel was granted primary custody of Sophie and Lucas, with Amanda entitled to visitation every other weekend. The judge ordered supervised visits for the first 3 months, until a follow-up evaluation confirmed Amanda had established a stable and appropriate environment for the children. The house, bought with a substantial inheritance Daniel received from his grandparents before marriage, was awarded entirely to him. Division of other assets was relatively even, but the judge ordered Amanda to reimburse Daniel half the documented expenses on hotels and restaurants during the affair, about $4,000, recognizing the dissipation of marital assets. Amanda had to move into a small apartment on Portland's east side, farther out and less valuable. Financially strained after legal fees and divorce costs, she struggled to maintain her previous standard of living. Freelance design work came irregularly. She picked up a few small projects with budget-conscious startups, but nothing close to her former high-paying contracts. Emotionally shattered, she dealt with guilt, losing her children, whom she saw every other weekend, social isolation, and the weight of knowing the damage her choices had caused. Daniel poured all his energy into the kids. Sophie and Lucas struggled at first to understand why their mom didn't live with them anymore. Daniel made sure never to speak badly of Amanda in front of them. His lawyer advised against it to avoid accusations of parental alienation, and Daniel believed it was right. When Sophie asked directly, "Why did Mom leave?" Daniel knelt to her eye level and said, "Sometimes adults make choices that hurt the people they love. Your mom and I couldn't stay married because of some of those choices. But you need to know none of this is your fault. You're loved by both of us, and you'll always have me here, every day. Always." In the months that followed, Daniel rebuilt his life piece by piece. His job stayed steady, and 6 months after the divorce, he got a promotion after successfully leading a complex system migration project. Nights were for the kids, dinners together, homework help, backyard play, weekend movies. He hired a trusted babysitter for times he needed to be at the office and the kids weren't in school. Slowly, a new normal settled in. Daniel also started taking better care of himself. He returned to the gym 3 times a week. Reconnected with old friends. Began weekly therapy to process the betrayal, the anger, the grief for the marriage he thought he'd had. His therapist helped him understand that Amanda's affair had nothing to do with his shortcomings, but everything to do with her own unresolved issues. That brought some peace, even if the scar remained. Amanda tried reaching out several times in the first few months, long messages apologizing, begging for a second chance, promising change. Daniel read the first one, feeling pity and indifference. After that, he blocked her personal number except for court-ordered co-parenting app communication about the kids. He had no interest in reconciliation, friendship, nothing but ensuring Sophie and Lucas grew up safe and healthy. About 10 months after the divorce, Daniel was at the grocery store with Sophie and Lucas on a Saturday morning. The kids were excited picking out cereal. Daniel was smiling when he turned the cart down the dairy aisle and saw Amanda across the way. She looked noticeably thinner, dark circles under her eyes, dull hair, simple, worn clothes. She pushed a cart with just a few items, store brands, basics. Their eyes met for a second. Amanda opened her mouth like she was going to say something, but Daniel simply turned the cart and walked down another aisle. "Dad, we forgot the milk," Sophie said. "We'll get it later, sweetheart," Daniel replied calmly. "Let's look at the fruit first." The kids chattered happily, oblivious to the tense moment. Daniel didn't feel anger seeing Amanda. No satisfaction in her fall. No real pity either. Just complete emotional distance, as if he were looking at a stranger. And that, he realized, was the true end. When someone you loved deeply becomes just another anonymous person in the grocery store. No anger, no sharp pain, just indifference. Amanda had become a figure from the past, a lesson learned, a page turned. That night, after putting Sophie and Lucas to bed, Daniel stepped outside with a beer. Sat in the wooden chair, watching the first stars appear over the Portland sky. He thought about how a simple shift in wording, from "love" to "honey," had been the first sign something was broken. How he'd almost ignored that sign, almost convinced himself it was paranoia. But his analytical instinct hadn't lied. And by acting quickly, he took control of his own life's narrative before it could destroy him completely. The shift from love to honey had been the harbinger of the end, the symptom of the emotional disconnect Amanda had nurtured while building a secret life. And Daniel, by noticing it and acting with determination, hadn't just ended a marriage that was already dead, he'd protected his children, preserved his dignity, and made space for a future where he would never again be anyone's second choice. He took a sip of his beer and allowed himself a small smile. Not a smile of complete happiness, the scars were still there, but a smile of survival, of resilience, of hope. Sophie and Lucas were safe. He was rebuilding. Life went on. And maybe, one day in the future, when the wounds were more healed, someone would call him love again. But this time, it would be with sincerity, truth, and the respect he'd deserved from the beginning. Under the starlit Portland sky, Daniel silently toasted himself, not for the destruction of his marriage, but for his own survival. For the strength he found when everything fell apart. For the mornings he'd wake up beside his children, building a new life, more honest, more true. And for the hard, necessary lesson, that some bridges need to burn so we can finally cross to the other side and find solid ground again. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.